Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Onepeg. So, in this video, we have a summary of the broadcast that just concluded with SDF, Terry, Odin, and Grayson for the Tavern Tavern Talk, whatever it is, number 3. I have information on Twitch drops for all of you. Please come idle in my channel during that campaign if you're feeling frisky. There is talk of HR changes, the new PVE adventure mode that is coming, loot modifications, a whole lot of loot modifications, including some good and some boss summoning mechanics, brand new monsters that we're going to see, quite a few of them, some new crafted items, new merchant stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff in here, so we'll get right into it. They were at it for about an hour, so hopefully I can get this done in, maybe 8 to 10 minutes. Anyway, so for the things that you guys want to know, and a lot of this, forgive me, I might end up staring at the screen, just kind of reading stuff off, but I'm going to try and rattle this off as quickly as I can. There will be no water map, and there aren't going to be any of the social space like servers that they talked about already. Unfortunately, those things just aren't ready yet. It is what it is. Let's just, move on from it. I would like to see them too. Instead, there is going to be a PVE co-op dungeon crawling experience that they've tagged as like adventure mode for dungeon hijinks. There will be no cap on gear as far as we know. Of course, that is subject to change, but for the time being, there will be no cap on gear. So it's 0 to 1,000 plus gear score, whatever you want it to be. In addition to this, they are also modifying the other game modes. So the standard normal mode that we're used to seeing with the 0 to 24 lobby and all of that is now becoming 0 to 124. HR level 1 is going 0 to 224 for those that want the 0 to hero experience. And then the HR2 or HR Plus is going to be 225 and up. All of these game modes are going to have modifications to their drop rates in an effort for them to try and match risk versus reward. Okay, so for my notes, PvE mode's focus is going to be trios only. You don't have to be in a trio though. If you queue as a solo, you can check that box that says don't fill the team, but you will just be thrown into a mode that is designed or is going to have teams of up to 3. Players are not going to be able to clip into each other, and they're modifying or trying to modify different ways to prevent people from being able to grief each other with like throwing weapons and stuff, trying to slow people down. There is going to be unlimited rarity of loot for people that can, want to go in with it. No, take that again. Loot out of PvE mode, out of adventure mode, is going to be capped at rares from all of the normal mobs and sub-bosses and all that stuff. And then for the final boss fights, those boss fights are going to be capped at epic quality items, including the treasure piles and the mystical chests and all that stuff. There's also going to be modifications made to the availability of quest items. So think like troll pelt or like wolf pelts, those kinds of things. Those drop rates are going to be significantly less in adventure mode and then boosted a bit between normal HR and then HR plus. So that's it for adventure mode. Now for the normals, 0 to 124, the difficulty being increased is going to be modified because of this. This GS change is going to change how difficult other players are, obviously, with min-maxing and all that. But you have the ability to farm blues and purples, technically purples, from the adventure mode experience. So there is that. Bosses will drop up to legendaries. So you can get epics from the normal dungeon experience from 0 to 124, and then bosses will be capped at legendary grade loot. Okay? HR level 1, 0 to 224, so you can now do the 0 to hero thing, like I said before. That will be the same effective dungeon experience as what HR already is. So it will have the BR circle, the fog of war, the random portal spawns, the randomized modules, all of that stuff is going to be exactly the same as what we're seeing at the moment. There will be better or boosted loot tables, though. So you can get up to legendary grade quality out of the entirety of the dungeon, and then in Inferno, if you kill the boss, there is a boosted rate of getting uniques. What they said was you have a much higher likelihood of getting unique quality items, but the caveat here is that there will not be any artifact named items dropping off of these bosses. There's also another twist to the boss thing too that I'll tell you guys about in a second. For HR 225 plus, like HR level 2, named weapons drop from bosses. So high quality or high chance of a very high quality item dropping. So uniques very likely from boss loot tables. And then a named weapon is going to be a much, much higher chance than what we've seen thus far. We don't know exactly what that is yet, but once the patch goes out and we're able to data mine it, I will definitely do a video and let you guys know exactly what those drop tables are. Okay. Now, in order for bosses to spawn in HR, that is being modified. What used to happen, or what's been happening up until this point, is that there's always been like one of 3 bosses in like Inferno, for example. You would go there and there's a boss standing in the middle of the room. We're not exactly sure which one, but it was just like a random chance to have one of the bosses in there, right? In Inferno and in Crypts, depending on which floor you're on. Now it is not a guaranteed chance for those bosses to be there. In a lot of cases, basically what we're being told is that those bosses are not going to be there very often, which means that we have the opportunity to be able to craft a summoning item to have the boss brought into the dungeon by us using that item on the boss room. Now, exactly how that is done, or if there's an interactable somewhere inside of the boss room or outside of it or whatever, we don't know. But we do know that there will be items that have to get collected, and then you will have to craft a key or some type of usable item that will summon a boss to fight in that room. Obviously gives people a lot more agency and control over whether or not they're going to summon a boss to fight them. That's how it's going to work from now, I guess, on. I'm not sure whether or not the Wyvern will have to be summoned or if it will always be there, but let's say you want to get a Cinder. That drops off of GK. You would have to make sure that you're fighting GK if you're trying to get a Cinder, or a Fulgore. Same thing. In the case of a specific drop like Zerx that drops from Lich, you would have to make sure that you fight the Lich in order to be able to get that drop, etc., etc., etc. In addition to this, the Expressman is also returning. They said that you would be able to use him multiple times, so I'm guessing that you'd be able to do it like floor 1 and then floor 2. Otto will also be back. Big dubs. Good to see the doggo back in the dungeon. But they did say that the mechanic for him is going to be somehow slightly different. I don't know if that means that using him multiple times is the thing that's different, or if there's going to be something else, but we will find out when we find out. Also, there are going to be new monsters, which I have imagery for here. There is going to be 7 new monsters. 2 of them were shown, the first one being an abomination, and the second one being a Cerberus dog style of monster. And obviously, they're not showing scale or anything like that. We're not exactly sure how big they're going to be or what the other monsters are going to be, but we do know that these are getting added, and we can obviously see that they've made some progress in their modeling team. Things are looking a bit more detailed these days. It's looking like they're making some progress, so kind of cool to see. There are also going to be new crafted items. The one that they teased, which is not the only one that's being added, was the Tome of Sheol, which I have a small image for you here, which is going to be a crafted spellbook. So finally, we will have a crafted spellbook, which I think is pretty sweet. There is also going to be a new merchant. The way that Grayson, who was sitting here toward the end, described it is that it's going to be a unique take on the merchant system, different than other merchants, but he did not elaborate as to how. Quests will be starting on that merchant right away. In the quest system, there's going to be more quests to do. Apparently, this merchant toward the end is going to have much, much harder ones, but they will be much more rewarding. These quests are going to start right away and are intended to last until roughly 2 weeks before the end of the wipe. So we're going to see much more quests in much longer quest periods, which I think is good. More things to do is always a good thing. Crafting tiers are also changing. However, Grayson did not mention how they are changing. He just said that they will be changing, and we're going to find out when we get there. They also talked about different HR leaderboards, and they showed this teaser image. They said that they're likely going to be added mid-season. They don't like making a whole lot of mid-season changes, but this is going to be another mid-season thing that they're going to do. It looks like it's going to be, at least at some level, rewarding people categorically for certain things that they do, like killing Spectre a bunch of times or killing Wyvern a bunch of times, etc. There's also talk of Arena and modifying Arena. They said that they wanted to try out a solo queue for people that don't have a pre-made 3-man. So for one side of the arena, there will be pre-made 3-man teams. And then for another queue for the arena, it will be for people that are only queuing solo and want to be slotted into a 3-man to play. Now, there is obviously the question here that we are all asking about stacking certain classes, because class stacking is absolutely an issue when you're random queuing like that. They said that they're looking into it, and if it becomes much of an issue, they can disable it. And then we have Twitch drops. There's going to be a Twitch drops campaign starting on April 12th. And shameless plug or whatever, I will definitely be live on the very first day. You can bet your boots. Everybody come park it in the Twitch channel. We're going to keep that thing running for you and farm that stuff, baby, all right? Come milk me for drops, and I'll milk you for viewership and ad revenue. It'll be, you know, we're going to milk each other, right? Milk the homies. You know what I'm saying? All right, anyway. A lot more rewards, they said. A bunch more of cosmetics. They teased this one cosmetic, this lantern skin that actually, I mean, not for nothing, it looked pretty hype. They're going to be a bunch of cosmetics. The time required for getting some of this stuff, they said the time requirement is going to be a bit higher than it was before, but there's going to be a lot more items. And hopefully, my hope is that this Twitch Drops campaign is actually going to be something that will keep people engaged for the 2 weeks, you know, relatively consistently, rather than what we saw, which is like everything kind of flamed out on like day 2 or day 3 because Twitch unfortunately changed the rules. So hopefully we can get that sorted out, or they've gotten it sorted out, and we can make some magic happen. Okay, last but certainly not least, they showed this Gilded Lobby skin. So they have a new lobby skin that had like this golden goose, and it took a dump and like shat out a golden egg onto a golden harp. It looked kind of silly. But the gilded background kind of looked dope. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it looked pretty sweet. There was also this gilded skeleton skin, which will be a skeleton skin that is going to be available to us. I don't know if it's going to be at the start or at some point or whatever, but this gilded skeleton skin also appears to be available. And they did show these 2 additional items that were kind of like small and over in the corner during the course of the broadcast, which was a gilded torch skin, and then there was a second torch that looked kind of reminiscent of the little monster guy that was being shown over in the other corner. So that's pretty much it, everybody. That's what I've got for it. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have seen some new stuff to adventure in, but I am kind of happy that there's going to at least be some new monsters to fight. And I do like the idea of kind of choosing your own adventure a bit with being able to summon the bosses rather than kind of just getting stuck fighting whatever's there. Being able to kind of dictate what boss is going to be in the room is kind of cool. I kind of dig that. And I must admit, it's kind of hype being able to do the 0 to hero thing again in HR. I kind of missed being able to do that, and it's a good challenge. It's fun. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. Thank you so much for coming and checking out the video. If you'd be so kind as to sub the channel here, I would very, very much appreciate it. Otherwise, you can always come and check me out over at twitch.tv/Onepeg, where I'm live just about every morning around 6 to 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for lending me your eyeballs, everybody, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.